Hello, and welcome to the fourth video of Module 4, where we'll talk about PowerPoint slides that have been converted into PDFs. So a lot of professors do this. It's usually pretty easy to remediate, but here's how we do it. So we'll first go to our Prepare for Accessibility tool, which is in like the bottom left corner. Sometimes you have to expand it, and we'll check for accessibility, and we will uncheck Create Accessibility Report because it just creates a document that we won't use. So we'll fix our title first, usually pretty easy. Sometimes the text is auto-populated. I like to just kind of go through the errors sequentially, see what's up. So we've got an alt text error, tells us to check the reading order, tells us to check color contrast. Alright, so that's pretty good. Not too many issues going on right now. So what I like to do first is go to the reading order after, we fix that click title issue. And your reading order is that thing that looks like a Z over here. It opens the reading order tab, and then you can say fix reading order, which opens this handy dandy reading order panel that has a lot of tools that help us to tag different parts of the document. So as we can see, there's a few issues with the reading order, particularly in the way things are tagged. Like we have the title as a span tag, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we would rather it be a heading 1 because that will help students navigate it with a screen reader. We can make this other span tag a text paragraph. You see this background image is tagged as a paragraph, but we want it to be a background artifact because it's not really doing anything for the slide. So we'll check our reading order 1 and 2, that's good. All right, we'll go to page 2. We'll make this a heading 2, just because it's, the heading under the heading 1. Then we'll make that a p tag. We'll go through and make sure our reading order is good. And we can check the content order by checking these radio buttons in the reading order panel as well. So now we can fix the tags here. We've got this heading 2. This table's doing something weird, so we'll fix that in a minute. The text paragraph. This graph is not a paragraph, it's a figure. So we can select that, turn it into a figure. We can do the same thing with these equations. And sometimes you have to fight with the equations a little bit to select them. Even though those text points are read as text, it won't be read out correctly most of the time. And you can check this by highlighting the text of the equation and pasting it into like a note document or something. Usually it does some funky things. Or I would suggest maybe a Word document, just to like check and see, because sometimes it'll read it correctly, but usually it won't. So you see I'm fighting with the highlighting of this figure. I ended up highlighting all of it and turning it into a figure. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to play around with the highlighting a little bit. And if you want to unhighlight something, you'll hold Alt on a desktop and Option on a Windows. If you want to like have some of it selected, some of it not. And then we've got all of these like arrow things happening. It's made it all like weird p tags, so we're going to make figures out of the groups here. Same with this text box here. Make it a text paragraph. Now it's got some like funky things with the highlights, but we'll just make those into background artifacts. So yeah, we've got that. Make our smiley face into a single figure, and our tree and its highlight into a single figure as well. We'll hold We'll hold Option on the Mac to unhighlight that text that got trapped in there. Alright, so same thing. Figure for this so that we can do the alt text correctly. And then we'll make this our heading 2. And then do 2 separate paragraph tags. We can also fix our order while we're here, so we can just click and drag, which is really helpful. And you can also see that the image is kind of in a funky place. We'll just drag that all the way to the bottom. That'll make sure the order's good. Alright, now we'll check our order here. Looks like it's in a pretty good place. The Excel chart, sometimes it likes to split it into a bunch of different figures, so we'll have to fix that. That's a heading 2. That's a text paragraph, not a span. But I marked it as a figure because sometimes I'm silly and I mark things the wrong way. So that one, we'll fix it whenever we get back to it. I noticed this in the editing, so we'll fix that in a little while. it's always good to throw a few little curveballs, gotta make sure you guys are watching. So this is a text contrast issue, so we'll just make this into black text since it's a white background. You want to have at least a 4:1 color ratio, and you can also check this on WebAIM's color contrast checker, which is linked in the additional resources page on the training module. So feel free to check that out. All right, so our document, we fixed the reading order, we checked the color contrast. That's good. We can say pass and pass. Awesome. So now we can go to our alternate text and start fixing all of that. So what I like to do is right click on the figure name and say fix. Great. So now we can see what it's highlighted. So when it highlights, it just makes something slightly lighter. So you can see when I click through it, you can see which one that it's highlighting now. So we'll start with the graph. We'll give it a similar description as the PowerPoint tutorial when we did it. So I'll speed this up a little bit so you don't have to watch all of me trying to figure out how to phrase things. So make sure when you're done with the alt text that you click the next button, and then when you're fully done, click save and close. Don't ever click cancel because that will just cancel all of your hard work. And if you don't feel comfortable with the saving, just save and close after every one that you fix, and that will save it. So really quick, we have this weird image that pops up, and it's just like kind of nothing on the first page that's all highlighted. You can mark those as decorative figures. They're often caused by like artifacts of tags that were removed but then weren't fully removed, so you can just mark them as decorative. They'll pop up a few times. So then we can add our text for the smiley face, and I think we just added some for the arrow too. I can't smell smiley. I'm gonna fix that. Then we can navigate through. Oh, there's another one that we just mark as decorative. The tree, say drawing of a tree, and say there's like a label on it. We can say like drawing of a tree with trunk labeled, something like that. All right, so now we've got this poem again. We come up with the same sort of conundrum. It's like, okay, should we copy the text and put it on the next page, or should we put it in the alt text? In the case of the poem, we can probably just have it in the alt text since it's kind of short, but if it's longer, we'll say image of a poem, content on the next page, something like that. In this case, I'm not going to type the whole thing because this is just a demo, but this is just something to be aware of. There are pictures of documents in these things, and sometimes they're not relevant. Like if it's like a small picture of a book or something in the corner of a page, or like just like an image of the Constitution or something like that. And if it's like no text is highlighted, you can say, oh, the Constitution of the United States of America. Picture of the manuscript or something like that. So don't worry too much about these documents unless the professor has clearly emphasized, hey, read this document, because then you have to put the alternate text. And if you're ever confused about whether to put alt text or not put alt text, always err on the side of putting alternate text. Just make sure that you're putting it responsibly with, as concise as possible, but as descriptive as possible. It's a balance you have to weigh, but it's something that you'll get used to doing. And I recommend just practicing looking at other people's alt text to see what goes on. So those are just my suggestions. So I'll finish typing up this poem, and once we get done with that, I just like to save and close it. Sometimes I get a little bit too scared of it. So you can save it and close it, and then your accessibility checker will automatically update with the photos that are still needing alternative text. So we'll pick up there. Looks like we've got our weird decorative figures popping up. We'll insert the alternative text for this Excel chart. And you've seen that before when you watched the PowerPoint video, so I won't make you watch through that. And let's see, we'll fix this figure. Oh, and this is where I realized that I accidentally marked that as a figure. So I saved and closed that, and I'm like, okay, let's open the reading order panel and see why this whole text is marked as a figure. I thought it was for the smiley face for a second, but that wasn't it actually, or the frowny face. It wasn't smiley face. So you'll highlight this and turn it into a text paragraph, and hopefully you won't mark it as a figure initially like I did. But in case you did, there's always room to fix things, so don't worry too much. And if this happens to you and you can't figure out what's happening, always feel free to reach out, because these things happen, so don't even worry. Alright, so we'll get rid of all our weird artifact figures, and that leaves us with the equation figures. And equations are handled a bit differently on Adobe Acrobat than on Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. Acrobat doesn't really have a good equation editor or equation reader, and screen readers often get a little confused about these equations that we put in there. I'm going to switch over to a screen recording that I did on my phone using an application called MathPix. You can also use this on your computer. It's got a little snipping tool, but I really like the phone version. It's kind of awesome. So I'll show the process of that, where I take a little image snip of the equation, and then it generates its own digital version, and then I airdropped it to myself, but you can also email it to yourself. I airdropped a PDF with the HTML code included, because screen readers can read HTML, and that should read the equation correctly. And then I'll switch back into a screen recording of my computer so that you can see how we put this PDF document with the equation into the overall slides. Alright, so now that we've got our HTML PDF version, I also went and got the ASCII description from the MathPix, so that's something you can do too, and I put that in the alt text. There's a few debates going on about that, whether it's useful to do that or not, but I think as long as you can put good, as many resources for reading equations as you can, the better. So, say math equation, and then I'll pop in the ASCII description that was generated. And you can send this to yourself. I ended up typing it out, but just be careful that you pay attention to cases and parentheses and spacing and everything. But I say math equation, view next page for HTML formatted version, which will probably be what most people do, just to help the screen readers understand what's happening. Because screen reading technology, it's not perfect, but neither is PDF editing technology, so we try to work with each other to see what we can do. So we popped in the ASCII description, and then how we add the little PDF we generated with MathPix is we'll go to our edit, or actually we'll go to our organized pages, which is a little bit easier to use. I think you can also do it from edit, but organized pages is the best way to insert pages. So we'll click the page, say insert from file, and then we'll grab the PDF we just downloaded, which sometimes it takes a second to figure out where I put things. I've got to organize my files, as you guys can see, but I already put it in SWOT 101 files. So say after the third page, so it's, the next page, and then, so we'll insert it, and then after that we will tag the equation as a paragraph, just so we make sure that it's read, and that should get rid of the extra funky tags that are hanging out there. And if they don't have anything in them, they'll be okay. They'll just get read really quickly and imperceptibly, but we just want to make sure that there's no strange content happening in there. So now we'll get started with a table. So the first thing that we want to do is this table is just made up of a bunch of span tags, which is not what we want in a table. So we'll fix that by highlighting all of it and then marking it as a table. Sometimes you can also split up the tags initially, and that will help you along with the, if you see a cell that's been merged weirdly. It doesn't always fix, and we'll see this table kind of throws a loop in the plans, because it's got a bunch of weird little tags in that merged cell. So we'll make it a table. Okay, it did a pretty good job. We have a table header, and table data. That's what TH is, table header, TD is table data. So Acrobat arranges its tables by row, so we'll see this in just a second, when we go into the tags pane, because we have this regularity issue that has popped up on the table now that we've got it marked as a table. So we've got it as table rows. Okay, so we got table header, and then we have 10 or maybe 20 empty tags, and those we can just delete because they're empty. They don't have that little arrow marker on the left side of them that means they're empty. So we can just go through and delete those, and all you have to do is highlight them and press delete. That should get rid of them. We can go through and do that for every row. That one's only got one, actually. I think that's the one that we tried to fix manually. So we'll go through. So sometimes the unmerged cells can cause like some empty tags, and that can result in some weird things happening. But this is just how you fix one of the regularity issues. And then if you need to change a table, a TD to a TH, you can do that in the tags panel. You can also do that in the table editor in the reading order panel. So there are two ways to fix the table data points. So then we can check again, check our regularity, it's passed, and then we can fix our tag PDF by usually just saying fixed. It doesn't always work. Sometimes the autofix will cause problems, but it generally works out well enough to where it's not a problem. And it's getting better all the time. So now we can see our reading order that reads the table properly, but the title is way down there, so we need to fix that. Okay, it reads the table, then it reads the figures, and then it reads this equation, goes through and reads all of that. I always like to do a final check of the reading order because sometimes things get scrambled, but once you get all of that figured out, then our document is good to go, and we can save it, and we can upload it to the OneDrive, and mark it as complete in our to-do list. So that's all. Always make sure you save with Adobe Acrobat, especially because it likes to crash occasionally. So save. Even when you haven't done anything, just save it. That way you'll have in case it does crash, you're prepared with a recently saved version of it.